Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Lauren Fisher, and I am the host of Wellness Wednesday. I am very pleased to have you here this evening, and we are going to be talking all about women's wellness, especially in your 40s and beyond. So, before we launch into that, just want to really quickly tell those, especially for those who are just tuning in for the first time, I am hosting this show on behalf of the Wellness District of the Delray Business Association. The Wellness District here in Delray is a collection of amazing health, fitness, and wellness businesses that are all very dedicated to helping people live their best and healthy lives. My job here is to connect you with our local experts and bring some useful information to you. So, with that said, I'd like to introduce who I'll be interviewing today. Her name is Mai Trinh. She's a friend of mine and a colleague. She is her specialties are chronic disease prevention, and she talks to tons of different people, but globally and locally and nationally to many different corporations, and has worked with a lot of busy professionals and helping them to live a healthy life without guilt. Her topics that she's an expert in is stress management, mental health, chronic disease prevention, nutrition, and she really just helps people rebalance their health around the world. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Mai of My Health Now. Welcome.
Thank you, Lauren. It's so great to be on ZTV with you.
I am so happy to have you. I've got to tell you, the audience, a little bit about how I came across Mai. And I love when, when paths cross organically, and then you just really hit it off with someone. So, I guess organically, we were pulled together to talk about participating in a panel together about sober curiosity. And I was like, what is this whole sober curious movement? Honestly, I thought it was just another label that millennials are using because I feel like they need to label everything. Sorry, millennial watchers, I really do admire you, but there's a lot of labels. But as I read into it, and I'd like you to explain it, but Mai had written an article for the Washington Post about the sober curious movement, which is really a positive movement in which people are starting to examine not drinking less or not drinking at all for their health, and if I understand correctly, feel free to explain it better, but we're trying to get away from the distinction with addiction and negative and switching to people making choices about alcohol because they really want to better their health. So tell me a little bit, if you will, and then because that's what really launched a little your story you told me and about women's health. And so can you tell a little bit about your story, Mai?
Absolutely. So I didn't write the article, but I was featured in the style section of the Washington Post about the sober curious movement and moms who were living that lifestyle. So what happened was when I was 44 and now I'm 46, my hormones really weren't my best friends. And I had to really look at my lifestyle and what I was doing. And so it brought me to the sober curious movement, where it's a movement where you decide what your relationship with alcohol is, and perhaps you'll do a pause. And it's not for the extreme problem drinkers. That is you want to go to a professional for that. So when I tweaked my lifestyle and put a pause on alcohol, I noticed that my sleep got better, and most importantly, my hormones and also my skin. So that brought me into looking at my lifestyle from my hormones and making sure that I wasn't estrogen dominant.
Yeah, well, it really resonated with me at the time as I am a little bit into my 40s. And I think when we first met about 6 months ago, I was expressing to you, I'm like, I just haven't felt well for 2 years. And I do know part of the reasons why that's happening, but I was a little frustrated because, I was at a party with some people and I was just like, my health isn't great. I know I'm somewhat responsible, but I'm like, there's changes in my body. I just don't understand what's happening. And people were like, you're 40, everything goes downhill from here. You're going to gain weight, you don't feel as energetic. And I was like, oh God, I was like, is this the decade of despair? I was like, holy cow, right? So, but as I've been learning more and your conversation with me about the alcohol, but that was just one piece, and you talked about how you really started examining all aspects of your health and telling me how I believe that your health is really good right now. So I would love to hear a little bit more on your personal and like your professional expertise about what do women need to know about their bodies and things in the
Right.
40s.
I think the big misnomer is that when you turn 40, you just accept your body breaking down. That isn't true at all. So, what happens is in your 30s, you're not thinking about your liver, and your liver is one of the most important organs in your entire body. In fact, it's the only organ, if you chop it in half, it will grow back. That's pretty amazing.
Right.
So, by your 40s, you're just more sensitive. And it's a great time to declutter habits that no longer serve you. So maybe you drank a bottle of wine and that was great in your 30s. In your 40s, your body fine tunes what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And that is a very easy thing to do if you become self-aware.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, well, I want to get into how people can be self-aware and understand more because I think I share with you that even my gynecologist, who I really admired up until about 6 months ago, when I told her, I was like, I feel like there's a hormone imbalance. And she's like, yeah, it's your 40s, things change. And I was like, we can't even look into it, or you can't help me understand. And she just wanted to give me birth control to like balance something out that I don't even think I was convinced was the issue. So tell me a little, can you speak more about the hormones and what's happening?
I just want to tell you the same thing happened to me at 42.
Mm.
But thank God I know a lot of integrative physicians and they helped me out. So, same thing, I went to OBGYN and I said, I want you to check my hormones. And she gave it to me. She's like, nothing's wrong. You're just in your 40s. And because I'm a health practitioner, I asked her for all the documents. Then I went to my integrative medicine friend who is a physician and she looked at it and she's like, you're on the cusp. So that means you really have to change your lifestyle. And the cusp was you got to check this hormone called estradiol, Estradiol, your estrogen. And you have to look at your estrogen and your progesterone. And if it's on the cusp of high, that doesn't mean it's normal. It means, hey, red flag, you really have to change your lifestyle. Kind of like when you're pre-diabetic, you're not fully diabetic, but you better watch out, right? So there are things that make you estrogen dominant. And I didn't realize what that was until I went on my journey, much like you. And estrogen dominance is when your estrogen is out of whack with your progesterone. And this happens in your 40s where your periods may not be regular, you may be entering perimenopause, but there are things that you can do so you can live a vibrant life. And you just have to fine tune your lifestyle. So hormones are huge, especially when...
Yeah. Let me just put in there because someone just asked that and they said, what are the ups and downs of estrogen at perimenopause? So, to what you're speaking of, is estrogen typically, does that decrease toward menopause or does it change?
So there's different types of estrogen. There are 3 different types of estrogen, right? And when you go into perimenopause, you have spikes of low estrogen and high progesterone, and you have to go to your doctor and check your levels. But you don't stop there. They're, just in case they do what Lauren and I experienced. You have to look at your numbers. And then what I did was I researched the normal levels. And it also depends on your cycle. Where in the cycle is your period? Because that is going to affect your estrogen levels. So yes, it goes, certain types of your estrogen goes down, but unfortunately, when you're estrogen dominant, the wrong estrogen goes up into the, and it gets your ratio of estrogen to progesterone out of whack. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. Yeah, and you and I were talking about how do people find out about where their hormones are? How do they evaluate them?
So that's a very simple blood test. That's it. They just take your blood test, and you need to know where you are in your cycle, where you are in your luteal cycle. That's really important, because if you don't know that, the numbers are not going to mean anything. So depending where you are on your cycle, that's where you measure your hormones. And I always ask the doctor, give me the numbers. And then what you can do is you can go to, if you're not satisfied with your just regular physician, I would recommend going to an integrative MD, which is a physician that went to medical school, but she takes a holistic approach to medicine. So she can give you all your medicine. She went to, medical school, but she takes a completely holistic approach. So she can look at the numbers and really give you a better idea. So I always recommend go to your normal doctor first, get the numbers, and then find a healer that works for you.
Yeah, and I'd also say in that camp would be naturopathic physicians. We also have a holistic nurse practitioner here, but that holistic, integrative, naturopathic, those are going to be the people in the camp that are going to look at things in a broader context, and especially thinking also about the other things you're probably going to get into that affects hormones as well, not just alcohol, but food and other things. So you want to launch into what else helps us thrive in our 40s?
So one of the big things that you really have to get straight, which unfortunately is affected by food and stress, it's your sleep. If you're not sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night, and I know this is difficult sometimes, but your hormones and your insulin levels are not going to be balanced. So there are certain things that really cause problems with your sleep. Number one, of course, it's stress. Number two, alcohol inhibits the deep GABA waves of sleep, which is restorative sleep. Sugar, processed foods, and lack of movement. So there are 4 things that you want to focus on in your 40s. Physical movement, up your fiber, focus on your liver. That's really important. You can focus on your liver by eating those unprocessed whole foods. And number 4, look at your connections with people. Who is draining you? Who's uplifting you? And Lauren can talk about that and how it affects your health. Very, very important in your 40s.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, connection with others brings feelings of dopamine and feelings of goodness, which sometimes we are seeking and getting from unhealthy sources, right? Such as alcohol or food and sugar, which gives us temporary high. But there's more than one way to, bring some positivity into your life. And as we know, or if you don't know, connection with others is it's proven with research to be a really valuable asset to health and longevity. So that's a great point, Mai. I had a question for you, though. You got lots of great information, and I want to know, have you always been tuned into this? Like, what's your story? How did you decide that this was kind of your purpose and path to spread wellness information to everybody?
That's a great question. So I grew up with my stepfather who abided by the macrobiotic diet in the late 80s and early 90s. And that's when nobody had heard of it. So I would prepare his foods, and he would sit down and tell me food is medicine. And that is definitely a very ancient idea brought by Hippocrates. And he would explain the healing properties of food. I forgot about that in my 20s, and I ended up going down a really unhealthy path of eating the wrong foods, not sleeping enough, and I was just a hot mess in my 20s. And then I got pregnant. I got married, got pregnant, and I decided that I wanted to be healthy and vibrant. So I started with the healing properties of food, and then I decided that there was just so much more components to health than just food. And I dedicated my life to helping people just tweak their health so they can be happier and healthier and make better decisions. So that's that was my path from unhealth to at least functioning much better than I did in my 20s.
Isn't that a great thing to be able to say?
Oh, and it was simple tweaks. Very little things can make a profound difference. And that's where Laura and I come in. You're a wellness coach. I'm a certified health counselor. And chronic disease prevention starts with self-compassion, self-awareness, and small tweaks.
Right. Small tweaks. And a positive, a positive mindset, a growth mindset. Because in so many ways, I don't know if you ever feel this way, but I'm like, oh man, I'm so much smarter than I was when I was 20. And in 30s, you feel like more secure. In 40s, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I could go back and tell my 20-year-old. So it's funny that we don't think about that in health. Like, why don't we believe that we can get wiser, right? We should be getting wiser as we learn more about our bodies. I think, and you could attest to this, it's probably, I think either, at least in my clients, it's the last thing that people want to pay attention to, the food part, and health. Sorry, going back to like nutrition and food, and it's the most difficult thing to attend to. So it's the last thing that people have not, I think haven't been really examining, but yet like why. I guess now is the time to really look in and ask, like, if we are growing older and our bodies are changing, but why can't we change in response to them? Why can't we continue to tend to our bodies with love and care and help them function the best that they can so we can continue to enjoy the things that we enjoy?
Honestly, Lauren, you couldn't pay me to go back into my 20s. And that's the whole thing. We can be fabulous in our 40s. We really can. Do not listen to the naysayers that you can't be vibrant and robust and beautiful in your 40s. It starts with self-love, because through self-love and self-compassion, that's when your self-awareness occurs. You're not going to be self-aware if you're drowning your sorrows in negative habits that no longer serve you. It's very hard to be embodied when you're drinking a bottle of wine every night and it's messing up your sleep. So someone just asked, how do you change your diet? First off, don't go on a diet. Change your lifestyle one day at a time by saying, you know what? Before I go and eat the entire bag of Doritos, I'm going to eat an apple. Start that way. Start with every meal you eat something live that grew on a tree or from the ground without the guilt. And you're going to build upon that.
Yeah, well, I would second that. I think that often many of the reasons we fail is we want that quick fix, and we want things to change like that. And also, I think, what is our intention? Like, what's the why in which you're changing your behavior? And when it's tied to lots of outcome, like I want weight loss, so I want to feel this, versus like I want to be healthy and I want to choose behaviors that are going to fuel me, or food that's going to fuel me or help me feel better. And I think when you tie it to things of like, higher values, things that you really care about, and you can feel that, you're more likely to repeat that. But your progress, I would say progress over perfection. So
that's so smart. And just to preface, right? A lot of estrogen dominance happens with prediabetes and cardiovascular disease. And so part of that is just really being at a healthy weight for you. And you do that by being intuitive about the foods that feed your vitality versus really bring you down. Really, really important. Just wanted to add that.
So, thank you. I'm laughing at some of the comments here. Gail said, so 60 is the new 40. Is there still hope for someone that's 64? Yes, Gail. And you are like 40 in spirit and body. So you're a great representation. But this is a point, right? That like at any point we can become healthier, right? And tune to ourselves and tweak. LaSalle, though, she said she's vegan. So, yeah. She said, what do you recommend? So
there are 3 things I recommend for vegans and for non-vegans when it comes to hormones. First of all, you want to get a blood panel test to make sure you're not deficient in any minerals and vitamins, because as we go into perimenopause, we get very forgetful. That's unfortunately one of the side effects of perimenopause. So you want to make sure with your doctor first, because they know your health history, and take a really good quality B12 supplement, also vitamin D. You want to check with your physician first, because they know your health history, because B12 helps with brain functioning, and vitamin D helps with sleep. People don't realize that. For diet, especially with vegans, nutritional yeast is very rich in B12. So I really, with vegans, they tend to be very deficient in B12, and you really need that going into your 40s. So finding a vegan supplement with B12.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, you had mentioned before about eating something off a tree or from the ground. So whole foods are extremely important. Or it's a good place to start, right?
Green leafy vegetables, unprocessed. The processed food actually causes a lot of estrogen dominance. It's so processed, it's high in sugar. And what happens is your liver starts producing all this glucose and your insulin levels go up and it stresses you out. So on days where you think you're just full of anxiety, lower the booze. Booze causes anxiety. Lower the sugar and really eat nourishing vegetable-based meals, like a vegetable soup that's broth-based that you made yourself, right? Nourish yourself with self-love. I cannot stress enough to learn how to love yourself so you can nourish yourself. It's very different to go on a diet because you don't think you're good enough versus I'm going to nourish myself because I love myself. Very different frequency.
Amen. Well, and so here Lyselle is saying something on the side, and I want to give my feedback, which may be different from you, Mai. So Lyselle says, I'm 64 and take B12, D, and B2. One thing I've learned from some of the people in our office here is that, even there's recommendations to take B12 and D, like everyone's personal composition and where they are at any time may be unique to them. You also have different genetic dispositions and other markers that can affect your where you are. So sometimes it is helpful if you're already following like some of Mai's great recommendations. You're like, I am eating healthy and whole foods and I'm taking this, but still something's off. That's where you may want to investigate a little bit and get a really broader and deeper look into where are you right now? What is it that you need?
Yeah, and I just want to preface, don't take any supplements without checking with your doctor and seeing what your blood panel is first. I love this quote. You cannot manage what you can't measure. So going and get your annual physical just to see the baseline. Like Lauren and I, we went to our OBGYN, get a blood test, get your baseline. And then from your baseline, then you go to the next step.
I like that. That's quotable. You cannot manage what you haven't measured.
Exactly. So for me, one of the big things with hormones, because I am 46, is measuring my sleep. So I got, whether it's a Fitbit, I got an Oura Ring. I'm not affiliated with the company. And it measures my deep sleep and my REM cycles and my efficiency of my sleep. I needed to do that so I can measure cause and effect. Sometimes I don't get enough REM sleep and I wonder, wait a minute, what did I eat? What did I do for that? So that's really important, right? To measure your sleep, especially women going through perimenopause and afterwards.
Hey, Steve Hauk. We've got our music host on of our Monday night's show. Tune in. He's always got fabulous musicians. Just want to say hello to you. Thanks for tuning in. So do you have any other comments? I mean, I know that you and I are going to go into more depth in our workshop in February, talking about, this hormones and health and mindset especially. Is there anything else that you want to say that would be helpful for people to know right now?
Yes, this is really important. All right, when you just got diagnosed with diabetes type 2 or you're pre-diabetic, in evidence-based peer-reviewed research studies, they found this is when you just got diagnosed. that you can actually reverse chronic disease by lifestyle change. And that's where Lauren and I come in. We help you with your lifestyle change, and you work in conjunction with your physician, of course. So never underestimate how lifestyle change can actually make you have more vitality and be more fabulous with great skin. So for example, when I was 42, and this is a hormone issue, when you find that you get a lot of zits on your chin, that tends to be very hormonal. That is a red flag that your hormones are off. I did my few lifestyle tweaks. I became more self-aware, and guess what? They disappeared. So lifestyle is key. Start with that, right? And you will be amazed how much you can reverse any kind of imbalance that you may have. So sleep, movement, positive connection, this can all change your mood and your body composition.
Yeah, and I think great summary, and I'm just going to add to that, like positive messaging. Um, the words and messages we listen to are what we're going to believe. So if you're repeating like it's 40 and I'm done, I'm fat, that's it, I give up, it doesn't matter, you know, sure or not. If you keep saying that, it's gonna wire your brain a certain way. And what we show and what people sometimes like, oh, positive talk, is it just talk? Well, actually, research shows when we give ourselves positive messages, and they can be realistic, like I I value my health. I'm capable of change. I am responsible for my health. I love feeling healthy and strong. When you wire those messages over and over, first of all, your neurons wire together. So they're going to become a stronger pathway, but it shows the activation in our left prefrontal cortex, which is the one that's associated with like opportunities and growth, and helps us be more flexible in problem solving versus the negative messages are going to activate your right prefrontal cortex, which is more like your fight or flight and just shut down. So why limit ourselves? That's why I'm always to me it's very important for us to listen to our messages, because so many people shut themselves down and they'll be like, this is the way I am. And I'm like, who told you that? Why are you living in this cage? So that's why I bucked back to my early story when someone told me, like, you're done in your 40s. I'm like, I do not. You're not going to create my reality for me. But a lot of times we do. So think about that. Even if it's been a struggle, I empathize certainly with people who struggle for food and sugar. I am in a process myself of making healthier choices, and it's a journey. But, again, what kind of mindset and the things that Mai has mentioned, what are the things that are going to support you on your journey and bring you closer, and what are the ones that are going to take you away from it?
I want to just add, what you focus on grows. So focus on empowering messages. And my favorite guru is Louise Hay. She's the queen of positive affirmation. So love yourself, speak kindly to yourself. You can do this. And you'll be amazed how much vitality you add to your life.
Yes. Be patient. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. All right. So listen, great information. I know that you do a lot of corporate talks, but you also work with individuals. So you want to just tell us a little bit about your consultations, and if people maybe wanted to seek you out, what that would look like and the procedure?
Yes. So in addition to being a corporate wellness speaker, I also have a private practice where generally people work with me for at least 3 sessions. And we speak about, first of all, your goals. Then we talk about the obstacles, what hasn't worked. And then we brainstorm together what does work. And what I love is integrative medicine, so evidence-based research with the best of the holistic world as well. And so we make a plan from there. And you can look at my website, check out free health tips on www.myhealthnow.com. That's MAI healthnow.com. I would love to support your journey.
Yes, and it looks like there's a coupon code that.
Yes, for anyone. Yes. So with the coupon code, it's MyTV25. So if you write me from my website, you can use that code. You get $25 off my services. And also, I do bathroom chat with Mai on my Facebook business page, My Health Now. So check me out. I would love to support you. You can do this. I believe in you.
I love that. There's nothing like honest talk from the bathroom. I love that. You always give great tidbits of information. So that's awesome. All right. And also, as mentioned before, Mai and I are going to be doing a little bit longer of a webinar on February 17th called Be Bolder, Not Older, Embracing Your 40s, Hormones and All. So we're going to talk more, but get a little bit more into strategies, especially around mindset and things, and have more opportunity to answer your questions and just build community around this. I know there's a lot of people interested in women's health, and it's a conversation I have all the time. People are like, what's going on? And no one's giving us answers. So here you are giving answers, Mai. So we appreciate all of your knowledge and wisdom that you shared. And if you do sign up there, if you do code ZEBRA on our website, delraypsych.com, you'll get a $10 off that website. So we hope that you can, or sorry, off that webinar. So we hope that you can join us. All right. So Mai, going to sign off with you for this evening. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me. I loved it. Thank you for the great questions. And it's not complicated. Just really be self-aware. Thanks, everybody. You can do it.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
All right. So thank you guys for joining in. I hope you'll join again in 2 weeks. I will be featuring CJ Westby, the owner of Foundations Fitness. We're going to talk about his business, their unique approach to helping you be your best self, and we're going to get into all types of topics, everything from being your philosophy and how to survive in life and to be successful, but also we're going to talk a little bit about being a Black owner in business and what his experiences have been like. So we're going to cover the gamut of really interesting topics. But more imminently, tomorrow night, Virginia Amos's show will be featuring Erin White of Mindy's Catering. And you can tune in tomorrow here on ZTV. And then on Monday, Steve Hauk, Living on Music, will be hosting musician John Carroll. So everyone, have a wonderful evening. I hope that this was helpful to you. And also, if there's anything that you would like to hear or specific topics of interest, feel free to, put them in the chat or send us a message. We want to make these shows as interesting for you as possible. So with that said, I'm sorry. Susan's going to kill me. I forgot to say the Zebras new edition, combined January-February edition is out on the stands right now. So pick up a copy. Also has our Zebras Reader's Choice Awards for all the favorites in Alexandria. So as always, thank you for supporting Zebra and ZTV. And remember to be the good news in someone's life. Bye-bye.